Hello, thanks for joining me in my channel. It's a sacred honor to share space with you. Blessed be to you, me, us three, blessed Trinity. Today is February 11th, 2022, 3 p.m. I'm recording from the Blue Ridge Mountains out in my studio today. Got the windows open, a balmy 60 degrees, loving it, and letting the nice air come in. So this video is about the general full moon energies occurring in Leo, February 16th, 2022. And I will be focusing our attention mainly on the 4 asteroid goddesses. These are Ceres, the Great Mother, Pallas Athene, or Pallas, the Warrior Queen, Vesta, the Eternal Flame, and Juno, the Divine Consort. So if you would like to learn more about these asteroids that are leaving their feminine footprint in deep and meaningful ways, I did a podcast on the main 4 asteroids with my friend Anthony. We do a podcast called All Things Esoteric Podcast, and we just talk about esoteric subjects. And we're just 2 people that are interested in research and looking at things a little closer and asking the questions and just engaging. So I just invite you, if you want to know more about these, we did do a podcast, like I said, and I recorded that, and the link is in the description. So before we go into these powerful and influential asteroid goddess placements, I want to provide a general overview of this upcoming Leo full moon energies and what Leo is communicating to us by way of this full moon. So full moons occur 14 to 17 and a half days after the new moons, and they are known to be a time of potentially great releasing, as the energies are culminated and now ready to be birthed, just furthering the cycles and rhythms of life. And during full moon energies, the energies during that time are considered to be very potent, and intuition is at an all-time high. The subconscious mind is considered very active. So you've heard the term moon madness. That's kind of where this comes in. So when we're talking about the moon, that the planet that belongs to the 4th house of Cancer, what we're talking about here is the unconscious, the female yin receptivity energies. And when we say female and masculine going forward, this isn't relating to body parts. This is not gender. This is the way in astrology and in esoteric texts and writings of how energy works. And the female is a receptive energy, and the masculine is a outward energy. And this is where we have female yin and masculine yang. So with the moon, we're dealing with emotions, the mother, themes of nurturing, family, domestic life, the wife. Hereditary is tied very closely. Ancestral knowledge is tied very closely to the moon. We have our instincts here and our habits and our feelings, our sense of belonging or alienation. This is the masses and containment, and it rules the stomach, breasts, and the pancreas. The moon does very, very well in Cancer. However, it does not do well in its detriment, which is Capricorn. That would be, detriment is always the opposite side that the planet rules. So the opposite sign or side that the planet rules. So the opposite of Cancer, 4th house, is Capricorn, 10th house. The moon doesn't do as well there. It's said to be exalted in the second house of Taurus. And then the opposite of Taurus is its fall, which is Scorpio. So it's very important when we're looking at moons to ask the question, is it healthy? How is it functioning? What is its degree? What sign is it in, and who's with it? And what house is it in? So Leo doesn't show up on the chart. So Leo isn't considered either a positive, if you want to put it this way, or a negative. He is what you make of him in this Leo moon. And it's really just the raw, and when I don't see any connections, I see that it's really acting in the raw energy within the human, within the containment of the sign and the ascendant and all of the other things that go along with your chart. So when we're dealing with the moon here, we're dealing with very different energy than the sun. So the moon does rule Cancer, like I said, which relates us to issues of that fourth house. And Cancer is cardinal water. So this is a moon that is active when it's in Cancer. If she's not debilitated, this fourth house moon is nurturing and caring, sensitive, compassionate, highly psychic through pronounced intuition. This is how we get the tie-in to Cancer's being psychic. And perhaps you've heard, I swear my mom has eyes behind her head. This is where this comes in, where mothers are highly intuitive, the nurturing instinct that they have. And she just takes the lead, much like the moon, and continues day after day after day, and she does not stop. And she will wax, and then she will wane. This mother of Cancer in the fourth house, she will make her way, though, through these days and weeks and months and years and seasons. We see this in women. We see their tenacity and their drive and their incredible fortitude that they have. And of course, it depends, right? How is your moon and how is it in your chart behaving and acting? So we have these cycles that she weaves through her way in life, and they are reliable and steady and always there, the mother, when acting in an upright position. So with the moon connected there, we have this guiding, communicating, filling us moon, new moons, emptying us full moons, creating life within only to birth, and connecting and leading us back into those innermost parts, our hearts, and how we feel about things. So full moons, again, highly intuitive psychic energy. I wanted to explain why that is. It's important to know. Full moons carry with them a promise and help and aid to move forward and unburden and release. So the moon is in Leo at the time of this chart at 27 degrees and 59 minutes. So this moon is 1 minute away. It's actually in the process of moving because we don't count 60. We go right to 0. We start at 0, 0. So this moon is done. Leo is as full as he could possibly be during this full moon in Leo third house. He is opposite the sun in Aquarius, on top of that, very top of that chart up there in the midheaven. So this is very important to notice as well, that the moon, as you're looking at the chart there, doesn't have a lot of activity around it. Nothing in the second, nothing in the third. The IC stands for the cusp of the fourth house, the most intimate part of the chart. So this moon is connecting right to the house of home. It's full. It's moving into the fourth house, and it's a next breath, so to speak, moving into Virgo shortly hereafter this moon hits us. And it's very important to know that because it's not staying in this Leo energy. It's as if it's bringing this huge opportunity, burst of fire, and Leo releasing. I gotta tell you, that's gotta be something to see, so to speak, because that is a lot of fire, and Leo is fire, and he's fixed fire. So This is a moon that's giving us an opportunity to really have some courage, inner courage and strength. So Leo is ruled by the sun. This is important to know who Leo is ruled by, because he will bring this to the table in this moon. Well, the sun is far away. So you can see this contention here. And the sun, his very ego, is in the Aquarius, the others, the 11th house of communicating. Leo is 5th house, the ego, the sun, the self, masculine yang energy, the king. And the 11th is Aquarius, which is cool air that is fixed, communication of the other. So you can see the contention. We've got a back and forth going with this moon of, Leo really needs to stay firm. I would say some great changes occurring, especially on the cusp of the 4th house regarding homes, relationships where one needs to stand up in courage. So Aquarius, again, opposite Leo, and Leo fixed fire. So we've got fire and fixed air, fixed fire, dealing with themes of the 11th house with that Aquarius. So some potentially very explosive conversations to be had here. So the moon energies overall in Leo, right, give us this strength and this courage and this boldness to be able to stand up to who we are and to be authentic. And this is really the theme here. The general theme is this authenticity that Leo demands. When we look at him being fixed fire in the 5th house, these are deeply personal themes. There are creativity. It's our recreation and how we procreate, how we have fun. It's the stage and drama and acting and music and pleasures. This is our romance. So very personal house. This is children and the way that we play, the way that we recreate. And Leo being conjunct that 4th house cusp, these are themes of really wanting to be, I would say, coming out of that 3rd house, really wanting familiar surroundings of security going into Virgo is where we're going. And really wanting to be nurtured, I would have to say here too. The ego is moving into the house of home. It's, needing familiar family surroundings to give a sense of security here. And you'd say, where Leo is bold and he's courageous. Yes, but look at where he is. He's right on that cusp, bringing in themes of the home, bringing in the emotional nature, moon, emotions, and asking, hey, do I want to continue to be like this in my family? And remember, Leo can exaggerate. He can be prone to exaggeration and extravagance, is a good way to put it together. He can be bossy. He can be domineering. Leos are very egoic. So that's a theme that could come up. But certainly, with the moon in the 3rd house in full going into the 4th, this is communication. That's Gemini's home, requiring 3rd house Gemini, mental and emotional stimulation here coming together. And siblings definitely coming out in communication, because the 3rd house is the communication of siblings back and forth, going into the 4th house on that cusp almost. This is truly, again, dealing with things of home, which include family and siblings. So important to see that. Full moon to wrap up masculine, fiery expressions here of energy. Lions do roar, after all. And lions have a certain regalness to them, these Leos. They can be very, very quite beautiful and extravagant and generous in their giving. If you've ever been on the recipient end, I have been, of a Leo, it's really something to behold. They have to be careful. Gout is known to be a disease connected with Leos, so overeating can occur, too much extravagance, too much play on this full moon. Just sure that that's something that you keep in balance. It's asking us to look at that. And if during these full moon energies, if our days prior to that have been a little easier, or maybe we've been in balance and there's nothing really crazy going on, we're just in this state of growing and transmuting and loving, we're accepting others, accepting ourselves, then we can really expect to utilize the kingly, fiery Leo strength and courage and stamina to perhaps move forward in our own lives in something. And it can be about the ego and the self only and not so much tied into the family. But if we've not been in those energies, then you can see this be a very, very challenging time of wanting to assert yourself and feeling this pressure to consider the others, with it opposite in the sun in Aquarius. So in the major arcana, it's really cool to see how Leo shows up. And he does show up in the number 8 card within the tarot. And there are 22 cards in the major arcana part, the main themes of the tarot. So with Leo showing up here in number 8, it definitely has a message. And I encourage you to meditate on this card if perhaps you are having some Leo beastly challenges with this full moon, where there's a lot going on relationally, because we've certainly seen that with all those planets. They've been in and out of Capricorn a lot with themes, it seems. They go through the signs, all of these inner planets, but the themes that we've seen in Capricorn, they just won't leave us, And at the time of this full moon, we've got Mars 16 degrees conjunct Venus 16 degrees in Capricorn in the 8th. Oof. This is some explosive energy with the feminine. And we're going to get to Vesta sitting there, who also is one of the asteroids we're going to cover. But strength is, the strength card has to deal with instinctive drives in our inner strength and survival in our courage. So when we see a Leo full moon and we see the strength card come out, it's time to really dig in deep and pull in our own inner strengths and resources to consider the others, but also not forget about the self. And just asking us to work with the beastly side, so to speak, the wild side, the untamed side of the nature, and really address it in this full moon. And try to balance those energies by releasing. Lions are the king of the beast, and they symbolize kings and emperors. So it's a position of authority here. And it can also be pride, so we have to be careful with that. But the element is fire, and we know that fire has to do with assertiveness and energy, passion, and intuition, connecting with spirit, connecting with all that is. The number 8 showing up is a number of abundance and leadership and influence. And number 8 represents honor, respect, rewards, and power. We must remember 8s, triple 8s, anytime you see 8s, there is a call and a rise to our own inner strength and power. And a time perhaps, because it can be too much to consolidate material and spiritual resources. So incidentally, 8 is also associated with the star card. So it's really important to look at that card as well. But you're dealing with the runes, a couple runes I wanted to bring up in Leo. And the first one is Uras, which is the wild ox and endurance and manifestation. So the physical or mental strength, that's required here to fulfill our dreams. And it's associated with courage energy and healing, and shows itself when there is an opportunity that perhaps we need to let go of from the past to be able to accept our future. So the need to settle disputes is very strong here. Isn't it interesting that this is on the 4th house of the home cusp? So this theme is coming out. Many families are addressing concerns right now. It is trining Pluto, the 4th house in the 8th, so those houses are going to work together. And Pluto wants to work. Pluto wants to blow through and be done and move into Aquarius. These energies are wrapping up in Pluto at 27 degrees, and in 2 years, we will be in Aquarius. So you're going to see more, I think, movements interpersonally and with others in our lives. And, looking at the things that potentially are holding us back, this rune also is about. Another rune I wanted to bring in is Elgiz, and this is elk, protection, and the higher self. And Elgiz is known as the protection rune. So it's dealing with themes of sheltering and defense and guardians and the warding off of evil. So it's really asking you to look at your relationship down there in the 3rd and 4th connection, and the way that we are in our most immediate relationships. That is 3rd house. The 9th house is longer relationships. So this is definitely day to day going into the 4th house. These are themes of home and relationships. So there may be a hidden danger. If you follow your instincts, you will have the ability to defend yourself, but you got to follow your instincts. So this is just intimating that you are in protection with Leo. Leo is courageous. Leo is strong, and Leo is willing to go to battle. The I Ching connected is hexagram 26, which stands for the great accumulating. This is all dealing with the tarot card, Leo, number 8. And this is considered the great taming, and how in that taming you accumulate wisdom. So it's really a more personal call here to taming that beast and being able to not be overrun and overruled by the roaring Leo full moon, but to have our energies in a place of centeredness. The crystals that you can surround yourself with during this full moon are citrine, topaz, diamonds, and garnet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive now into these asteroids and just give you a quick brief overview, and we'll take a look at where they are within the chart. So I just want to say that, as I did in the podcast that you may give a listen to regarding these asteroid goddesses, that some of the material that I'm taking out of here is from the book Asteroid Goddesses, the Mythology, Psychology, and Astrology of the Re-Emerging Feminine. And I have the new edition with updated ephemeris. And this is by Demetra George and Douglas Bloch. I highly recommend it for the serious student of the asteroids. I am indebted, and I just can't thank them enough for the work that they have done, because they've just really opened up an avenue in my life that, now that I understand them better and have been working with the archetypes within my own natal chart, I'm seeing incredible movement and shifting and changing. And it especially is in my feminine expression, that for a long time, in creative ways, let me put that parameter around it, in my creative ways for a long time just wasn't present. So it's just been so wonderful to see, as I grow with them, how they truly are beautiful and regal in their own right. So until the discovery of the first 4 main asteroids in the 19th century, we really only had the classical planets. And those were the feminine planetary bodies in astrology, known as the moon, mother, and Venus, wife. So the asteroid goddesses expanded the scope of the feminine beyond the personal planets. The sun, moon, ascendant, other planets, aspects, angles, and the houses they reside in will give an indication of just how these asteroids manifest themselves. So we can find these by obviously looking within your natal chart. And it's important to remember that the stars impel, they do not compel. This is Elizabeth Hickey, Cosmic Science of Astrology. She said this. And this is where Isabel Hickey, excuse me. This is where you need to take the time to see where they are, apply your knowledge, and learn and hone your wisdom around them, and then activate them within your life so that they can operate in a proper way and work with them. And all of that, my goodness, everyone has their own journey of how that looks. Everyone has their own flavor of ice cream, so to speak. And I don't think anybody can tell, me personally, it's what I believe, can tell another person how that's supposed to look. I think that we just serve as doors to one another, but ultimately, in our own self, as we know thyself, that's how we become strong. And that's how we become empowered. And then that's how we can take what we've learned and we can launch it out into the world and live a successful life. So these asteroid goddesses will require you to put your own efforts into this. They just don't happen. Although there is an argument to be said of how when you're on default mode, meaning you're not awakened to any of this, events still do occur that we can go back and look in your chart. Even though you knew nothing about them, they were still actively working, and you can see that. So I do want to say, ignorance of them does not stop their continued orbits in our solar system, nor the work that they do wish to do. And I think will continue to do, unless there's some change in our solar system, something that occurs, they will continue their orbits doing what they do. And again, I have found with knowledge and learning and focus and determination, my own assertion, my own energy, and the blending of my energies with them to be extremely profound. And they've aided and guided me. And I can't say it enough. It really allowed me to create a space to come out and flourish in my creative pursuits. So what's interesting to note about these asteroids is that the evolving and discovering of them, when they emerged out into society, they mimicked current global trends that were coming into play during that time. And we can go and see this again and again throughout astrology, where we take a look at what has occurred in a nation or what has occurred even in a city or in a home in a city. Like, you can get this exact. And then you do the transit report, the natal report. You take a look at what's going on of that space. And I tell you, things show up in phenomenal ways that make the astronomers scratch their heads and the astrologers say, see, I told you this was a science. So the first 4 feminine asteroids that were discovered in the 19th century coincided with the increased rise of the feminine and the feminine influence globally, thus the subsequent participation that we've seen within our societies. So we saw and continue to see them in issues in the areas of work equality, personal rights, competing, ruling, reigning, creative efforts and expressions, and within boardrooms, in over cities, states, and countries. We've seen and will continue to see the masculine impacted by these newer, bolder expressions of the feminine. And the masculine has also had to shift and grow, and sometimes even relearn what has been forgotten regarding the feminine. And all of us, including the feminine expression in our children, we are navigating this changing landscape that once was familiar and traditional. We are seeing many, many, many changes to the feminine. And this is the feminine again, the feminine within the quote-unquote masculine, because each of us has masculine and each of us has feminine. We are dual. We have each in us. And we've been told that our gender makes us who we are. That, you look at someone and she has breasts and a vagina, so she is a woman. And you look at a guy and you say, well, he has penis and testicles. He is a man. And I got you. I understand. If you're just dealing with the body, yes, you would be right. But we have to understand masculine and femininity are types of energies that express themselves, that are outside of gender and inside of gender. So this is where we're seeing much of the change among the masculine, quote unquote, the men. So if we look at the 19th century timeline, we can see how women's rights and equality were on the forefront of many women's minds in world issues. And the first women's conference was held in Seneca Falls, New York, organized by ardent women's rights activists Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott and Susan B. Anthony. And there were notably other women present, so I'm not trying to eliminate anyone. But it was a powerful movement in time in history. So I encourage you, take the time to learn about these brave women. Look at their charts as well. They're online, fascinating. And they didn't settle for being anything but equal to the masculine, the patriarchal, heavy-handed male presence that was absolutely taking women's rights away and not seeing them as equal. So all of this has changed so greatly. And they're helpful to wrap up the background here, because if we look at them like the planets, they do express vibrational energies that interact with Earth. And if we know where these are and how they work, we can be more symbiotic with our energetic blueprint and how we came in our chart. So they're powerful agents of personal change and transformation regarding feminine aspects in a person's life, whether male or female. And it's important to note, again, all hold male and female within them. This is an alchemical, esoteric teaching. I'm not going to belabor it, but you can look into this. And I've just learned so much about that. But this video is not about that. So we can see the flaw in this when I think a person, without even trying, the flaw in society, the way that they view people, let me put it that way. When a person, without even trying, just naturally defaults to an expression and it doesn't match their physical apparatus, it's really been hard for those individuals to try to find their way and figure this out. And society has not been kind to them. And society in the past has had a certain way of doing things, but we are seeing these expressions replacent within our communities, in arts, in music, in films, in culture, and society. And I think those who hold on to traditional groundworks and, plant that flag and won't let go, I think that they're going to have a harder time with this. And I'm not advocating how anyone should live. That is your business. Now, if you're harming someone, if you're physically hurting, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, harming someone with your behavior, then I think obviously we need to take a look at that. But somebody wanting to, if I can be real here, somebody wanting to put a skirt on or wear lipstick or eyeliner or heels, be more feminine in their expression, that is their business. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So the asteroids, gods, goddesses, dwarf planets, they do fit under those transformative signs and planets and houses. And those are the 6th through 8th houses and signs within the zodiac wheel. So the 6th house is mutable earth energies, and they relate to the themes of daily life of an individual and work, service, our duty, our health, and our nutrition. Very much have to do with the body and healing. The seventh house of Libra are cardinal air energies, and they relate to the themes of marriage and relationships, partnerships, our enemies and our alliances, our conflicts, legal matters. In the eighth house of Scorpio is fixed water, and that relates to the themes of transformation, transmutation, psychology, death, dying, taxes, sex, power, deeply felt experiences, growth, change, renewal, the occult, all mysticism fit in there as well. So along with Jupiter and Saturn, planets relating to these signs are bridges that take us into the 9th and 12th houses, where we completely integrate and are seen and known and hopefully understood, and where we can shine and leave our legacy. So where these asteroids are placed within our charts and where we can really affect change and make a great impact in our feminine energies. So with that, I just want to read out of the book here for a moment. And this is page 4 out of the book that I mentioned, Asteroid Goddesses. And she says this: the asteroids correspond to the feminine archetype embodied in their mythological namesakes. In essence, the feminine relates to the all-pervading force in the universe, which receives, gestates, and gives birth to life. On a global level, the discovery of the asteroids points to the birth pangs that humanity is now experiencing as we approach the Aquarian age. So these asteroids are helping to usher us into the Aquarian age. So we're going to start with Ceres, and this is the Great Mother, also known as the Feminine Christos, and she is concerned with Cancer and Virgo sign and energies. And Ceres was the first asteroid to be discovered, and it was discovered New Year's Day in 1801. And she is the largest of the initial 4 discovered. Her name is for the Roman earth goddess of grain and the harvest. In Greek, her name is Demeter, the earth goddess. So she's the goddess of the harvest and the natural processes of fertility and renewal. And within a chart, she's going to represent the processes of nurturing, motherhood, attributed again strongly to Cancer with the co-ruler, the moon, as well as the sign of Virgo. So Virgo is feminine in expression and has been seen by many as the further refinement of the feminine principle. An afflicted or poorly placed Ceres can indicate problems with being able to nurture or to be nurtured by others. Food complexes, addictions, eating disorders such as anorexia, bulimia, obesity can be expressed. Feelings of rejection from parents or authority figures can be revealed. And when she is in strong, healthy expression, we see those who thrive in parenting and have a personal and social conscience connection to the earth. These are our gardeners, our growers, our servers of food, and wherever she resides in our charts will show us how a person relates to motherhood and parenthood themes. So her symbol is a sickle, a tool for harvesting and deeply connected with fertility, abundance. She's agriculture, which is the bounties of fruits, vegetables, and grains. The way our seasons change, and more significantly, the overarching themes of the process of experiencing life, detaching, and then becoming our own person. So mothering, parenting, being a parent, how motherhood, nurturing, and how parenting changes and transforms you. So since she's so strongly mixed with agriculture, it's how we move throughout the year's seasons and how we work with them, how we process and renew within our cycles, and how one grounds themselves and is deeply connected to Earth. So this is issues of personal security as well. Water and Earth, Cancer and Virgo, are complementary energies. So you can think sea to the shore, and Earth receives the water to be nurtured and is able to grow. So this is a symbiotic relation of connection, nurturing, and relationship. So this is how we deal with death and dying and grief and loss, and relates to the daughter Persephone, who was abducted and taken to Pluto, and Hecate went. She provides deep insights into how we care for our own inner child and other children. So she can show where a miscarriage can occur, and death and dying and loss, and how we transform and grow without encroaching on others. Everything has their boundary and grows well when it's within a boundary. You see this coming into play here. And her polarities are compassion or anger. Compassion or anger. So tonight she's sitting in the first house, which is in most cases the ascendant or rising sign, which it is. And it's in Gemini, indicating primary motivation here, how we look, our self-expression to the world. First house, a deeply personal body dealing with the physical appearance. So with Gemini here, our primary motivation is going to be communication. This is this is Gemini, who operates out of the third house of direct communication, Mercury, her planet. And I'm wanting to move back and forth and not having a lot of restriction here. Ceres in this house is wanting to send, a vocal air energy out on the themes that I just described in motherhood. So we're seeing Ceres as the mother in this full moon, rising up. The full moon is conjunct the fourth house of home. Not an accident here. This is a mother taking a stand in courage, taking the opportunity to rise as the feminine ascendant. Very, very, very strong energies here in assertive way. First house, the ascendant's no joke. It's very important to always look at the ascendant in a chart, because it's giving us this energy that wants to be communicated tonight. This is a very active series in communication. So taking opportunities here as well to delight and entertain others, to create an atmosphere of magic and gaiety. With Leo likes to play. So there's this mixed energy here of Ceres saying, I want my family to be okay. I want my family and the home and the mother to be okay. And I may need to, in my ascendant, communicate a wake-up call. I might need to be really, really vocal about this. And Mercury, who rules Gemini, is up there in the ninth house in Aquarius, which is about the other, and talking about how this is impacting all people. So we've got a very active mother in Ceres here. And it's notable to also notice her aspects and what Ceres is being influenced by. She's trining the sun. This is excellent energy. The ego, the sun, Leo's planet. This is a working together energy here, a blending of the ego coming into Ceres and saying, okay, I'm speaking now. I'm speaking. I'm blending my ego with the sun, and I'm making myself known about the themes of motherhood and nurturing. It is trining Mercury, another good aspect. Ceres trining Mercury in that ninth house, and Mercury is Gemini's planet, and Ceres is in Gemini, so she's going to be able to really speak her mind here in the trine and communicate through that ascendant, very personal nature. All right, with that, I'm going to go into Pallas Athene. This is the perceptual skill, the warrior queen, and the goddess of war and victory. These energies are Libra, Leo, and Sagittarius. Libra is 7th house, cardinal air communication. Leo is fixed fire, like we've been discussing. And Sagittarius is mutable fire. So a lot of fire energy connecting here and a lot of air energy. So we could have some fighting, guys. We could have some conversations with Pallas that need to be said. Often shortened to just Pallas, she is the second asteroid to be discovered in 1802. Pallas represents the wisdom of the feminine spirit as indicated by the mythology of Pallas Athene. Now, Pallas Athene was born from the head of Zeus and symbolized by the owl and the snake. Pallas within classical Greek mythology was second only to Jupiter. The Greek city of Athens was named after her, the intellectual center of Greek civilization. So she's represented as a masterful tactician and strategist. She used her wisdom to settle disputes and showed others how to uphold the law and peacefully settle those disputes through diplomacy. Pallas is a powerful symbol that is interested in independence and deep wisdom. She does not ally herself to any man. So Pallas is operating in an independent spirit here. We're moving from Ceres, who was the mother, the nurturer, the connection and relationships with the home, to a very different energy in Pallas, who again is more independent. She's a strong warrior, and she's helped and aided men of goodwill. And they have taken her advice, and it has been honored and prized. Her intelligence was renowned. So here we see the feminine residing in the spirit of independence and cool mental judgment. She represents the creative use of the mental faculties in conjunction with ancient wisdom. She's connected to the arts, especially plastic arts such as sculpture and pottery, trades of smithing and metal founding, as well as weaving, embroidery, and woolworking, as well as medical and medicinal remedies. She ties into health. She is a healer as well and knows the secret of regeneration through Medusa's blood. So within a chart, she's going to reveal the unique creative intelligence and higher wisdom. She shows up primarily in the astrology of Libra, the principle of creative intelligence, seventh house of cardinal air, and Venus is tied here very strongly. This is where someone is independent in their creative energies, in their own expression, and mental nurturing. So within the chart, she can indicate wisdom and intelligence and all the ranges thereof, from genius to mongoloid, learning disorders, learning problems, disabilities, mental retardation, difficult in communicating, difficult in diplomacy. If she's debilitated, not functioning in her highest, we see dyslexia, problems with perception, hand and eye coordination, learning difficulties, problem-solving skills are greatly diminished. We can see her in areas of leadership, healing, and those who are deeply connected with justice, fairness, and protection. And her glyph and spear is Protectus, Spear of Protectus, and the owl, serpent, and shield is known to be her glyphs. So her polarities are courage and fear. And I want to read something out of the book on page 92 that talks about Pallas and androgyny. And I think that this is really important, especially in looking at what's going on between our expression of feminine and masculine compared to 50, 75, 100 years ago. Because Pallas, this is page 92, Pallas and androgyny. Because Pallas powerfully expressed both her male and female sides, she symbolized the movement of soul development toward androgyny. Her association with the sign Libra points to her role in balancing the internal male-female polarities. Astrologically, individuals with a prominent Pallas will seek companionship rather than passion in the heterosexual relationships. The fruits of such a path are usually an abundance of friends and a concurrent scarcity of lovers. In some instances, the same individual can function as both friend and lover. Another result of androgyny is the deconditioning of sex role typing. As Pallas ever strives toward balance and wholeness, she permits us to express and blend our male and female sides within one's unified and integrated self. As a result of her Aquarian influence, Pallas can help us to recognize the indwelling humanity of another person rather than judge him or her according to a sexual stereotype. So I thought that was fascinating and definitely worth reading as it ties into how Pallas is expressing herself in 2022. We see her in the 11th house this evening, and we see her in Aries. Pallas here is going to have a very cardinal and a very outward expression of Pallas, because Aries rules the first house. This is Mars' place, and this is an incredible amount of energy that is surging forth when we see her in Aries. This is a seeker energy of initiation, activating, and trying to get something going. We've got cardinal energy in Aries, the first house, first sign. This is number one, we know, is the seed of all things, the beginning. It is powerful. Vital energy here is given when Pallas is in Aries, and she's heading, her healing, is heading towards a vision that will activate our own vital forces within, and techniques of homeopathy and holistic techniques, in acupuncture and meditation, the mental, you think of Pallas, she's got this mental acuity and asking us to be more creative in fields of kinetic art. And politically here, Pallas as the warrior queen is a militant warrior, as Aries is the god of war. So the wisdom here can be very pioneering in this 11th house. And it's wanting to come out to others. And the 11th house is the house of others. Aquarius rules this house. And so this is going to be a house that's interested in communication in fixed air energies. And so individuals can really conceive and birth new social visions here. Working within a group format, Pallas is arising within the group. She's stepping up, and she's bringing in these new concepts within societal organizations and bringing her creative out, and she's wanting to express it in a strong way. Aries doesn't play. This is just, I'm not saying in a rude way, but she's definitely stepping up, guys, and she's taking her place. And there can be a bit of a struggle here if we become wanting to have our own way and not being for the good of the group. The warrior queen didn't get to be the warrior queen, I think, because she didn't know who she was and she didn't have some self-determination. And so she has to always stay in that vein of, yes, Aries and the strength, but the other is considered here. And she is squaring Venus. This is a hard position when we're squaring Venus. Squares represent Mars energy in the zodiac, and they're 90 degrees apart. And this is where we see tensions and lacerations, where things are coming apart. And it can be irreconcilability, where it really takes a lot of effort for these two work together. So her squaring Venus, that's a challenge. Venus is how we relate. Remember, this is exactly what we've been talking about with the home and the family and relating one to another. She's conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, not going into him, but this is an ouch right here. This is a wanting to show the wounds and to say, look, we've got to face these. We've got to deal with these, and to show the naked truth, and to ask people to look at issues dead on, whether they're social, political, or scientific realities, not just the sex of it all, not just the feminine, but what's going on here with the feminine. How is she being treated? What's going on in ideas of fashions, Venus, square, in ideas of creative expressions. So it's a very, very powerful energy there in working in Pallas tonight. Going on to Vesta, also known as Hestia by the Greeks, she embodies the principles of focus and commitment and is represented in astrology through Virgo's energies, mutable earth, and Scorpio, fixed waters. So she's the goddess of the eternal flame, symbolized by the Virgin, who is tied to Virgo, who appears in the Virgo pictograph, but is also associated with Scorpio's sign. So she is the goddess of the hearth and keeper of the sacred flame. Her name from Sanskrit means shining, and she is the daughter of Kronos, also known as Saturn, and her mother is Rhea. Now, Vesta is the brightest asteroid out of all of them and can be seen with the naked eye, the only one that can be seen with the naked eye. And it's composed of an unusual volcanic rock that reflects a large amount of sunlight, thus the fire, hence the eternal flame. So as goddess of the hearth fire, she became a symbol in many homes as a guardian of home and the community. The cohesion between the family and the state was very, very important to her. So Vesta's priestess of Rome were known as the Vestal Virgins, whereby they were sworn to celibacy, as their duty was only to tend to the sacred flames. But I want to read from page 119 here. So her psychological themes include focus and commitment and dedication, aspiration towards a path or goal, and sacrifices that one will need to make to attain those goals. Her glyph is the fire of the hearth, and it looks like flames. Her symbols are the internal flame, torch, altar, fire, and the donkey. So with the sign of Scorpio, she has a sexual theme of liberation and sex outside of the norm. And here we can see where she reveals challenges with sexuality and intimacy. She can have on the lower polarity fears of intimacy and avoidance of marriage and children all together. The principle of the virgin and virginity is present here, where this is the self-contained, self-reliant, personal energy, a inner strength and discipline. So her polarities are devotion and fanaticism. And she is inside of the sign of Capricorn. So she's got the clothing of Capricorn, and we've been in Capricorn talking a lot about the inner planets of Venus and Mars and Mercury and what they've been doing in and out of Capricorn. I mentioned that earlier. But when Vesta comes in Capricorn, we're now dealing with a cardinal earth energy that is feminine in nature. So this is good. It's feminine, but it's in a feminine house. We've got a lot of water here, okay? We've got a lot of feminine, yin, inward energy. And so she's going to work best here in a structure and in a disciplined fashion, because Saturn is Capricorn's planet, and Saturn is sitting in that house to bring structure. This indicates to me, I think, that there is some power in Scorpio in that 8th house going on during this full moon, where some things want to come out that have been hidden. Pluto rules Scorpio. We've got the theme of that, and Capricorn is in Pluto, containing Pluto a bit, but it's visiting Scorpio's house. So you see all this working together up there in the 8th. And when we're dealing with the 8th, we talked about this before, this is deep transformative energies going on here. But in Capricorn, this ambition and this drive to succeed is what's going to be the leader. You know, it's going to have this ability to formulate and execute some plans that can lead to success in administrative work, in work of the nitty-gritty, the day-by-day, the things we got to get done. Because Capricorn is 10th house rules and regulations and government. But you have to understand, too, she can be too strict here. So with Vesta and Capricorn, there is some restraint, but it also can be challenging because Scorpio, even though it's not in Scorpio, it's in that house that gets to the bottom of things. And this can be a real serious dedication here with Vesta to the psychic and occultic fields, wanting to take a really hard, earthy, cardinal Capricorn look and look at them and interact with them in an earthy way. But it can also be difficult here for them to find someone to meet this sexual intensity. So they may experience some limitations here. So this is kind of the theme going on with Vesta. We're going to have issues of fidelity and infidelity because she deals with the sacred flame, keeping it alive in the home and in the center of the city. So moral housekeeping, purging one's life of secrets. You can be exposed as a hypocrite here. Things coming into the light. Shadows come to the light in the 8th house. Scorpio faces everything in the 8th house. It pulls it all up from the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Now Vesta's conjunct Venus. So the planet of love, creativity, is working with her. She's trining Uranus, however you want to pronounce that. This is positive energies. That's giving Uranus the ability to express himself through Vesta. But it can be sudden. It can be quick. This is the rebel and the revolter that's coming to Venus energy, working with her to say, yes, bust out, change, do what you need to do to get where you need to go. Vesta conjunct Pluto, oh my, double Scorpio themes. She is blowing some shit up. Let me tell you, this is some powerful energy. We have a square Chiron again, Mars energy working with Vesta. Vesta's already in Mars energy in Aries. So the wounds are being exacerbated with what's happening here in the 8th house. She is really wanting to stir the home fires and get things squared away here. This is very, very clear. So I want to move into Juno, our final asteroid. And Juno tonight is placed in the 9th house within the zodiac wheel on the cusp of Aquarius. So Juno is the divine consort, the goddess of marriage, the queen of the heavens, known as triple moon goddess. In here we see Libra, cardinal air, and Scorpio fixed waters working together. Her glyph is for royalty, a scepter, for royalty. Juno is considered the goddess of marriage and was considered one of the 2 married women in Olympus. Venus Aphrodite would be the other. Venus did not honor her vows, however. Juno did. So she was the wife of Zeus, Jupiter, and was revered for her fidelity and loyalty. Juno was known to the Greeks as Hera, forming the root He-era, which means the earth, and also translated as lady. She functioned as the patroness of married women. She presided over all rites and arrangements of legal marriage. The 6th month of June was important to her, and this is why there are so many weddings in June. June covered the female reproductive cycles as well, which symbolizes the orderly passage and rhythm of time, heavily tied into the moon here. So Juno within a chart is going to symbolize your principle of relatedness through a committed relationship or partnership. It's going to be a striving for a perfect blend and union of souls. Libra represents marriage, Venus, and Scorpio, consumption, Pluto, Mars. The difference between Vesta and Juno, though, although both connecting with Venus, is that Vesta connects, then goes back to her world, whereas Juno connects and becomes reabsorbed back into the relationship. In the polarity or shadow side of Juno in partnership, we see the range of suffering and neurotic complexes that can occur when someone's love is not returned. So tonight, like I said, we have Juno in the 9th house. So this is in the home of Sagittarius, but it's in the sign of Aquarius. And in Sagittarius, we're going to have different themes. Aquarius take on a little bit of a different meaning in Juno, because although Aquarius is in Juno, Sagittarius lives in the 9th house. So the 9th house has to do with the search for meaning in the higher education. This is where we have our doctors and our gurus and our PhDs and higher than the lower Gemini, 3rd house education. This is great mind expansion and philosophies of life and religions and spirituality. This is journeys, travel. This is wisdom, deep, deep, deep wisdom that is gained in the 9th house. So with Juno sitting here by Saturn, next to Mercury, in the middle, it's definitely communicating we need to take a more spiritual view, a definitely higher view of spirituality, of partnership, So when we see Juno in Aquarius, we've got someone that really needs their freedom to be an individual and just to have their own life apart from the relationship. And this is an opportunity to experiment with new forms of relationship. This can be open marriage, role reversals, different types of arrangements. Because Aquarius is the forward-thinking sign. It is fixed air. It wants to talk about things of a higher level and pour them out on the earth and bring ideas down into earth. We have Uranus, the planet of Aquarius. That's that rebel, the revolter, sudden shock, sudden awe. And it can be a place where Juno becomes erratic and unreliable and uncommitted. So if we were to further dial down the message here, 9th house, opposite 3rd house, the moon is in the 3rd house. So it's Juno on the cusp of the 4th house home. Juno making conversation very clear in a Leo way about partnership and wanting to see some things to change, wanting to see some things to definitely change.